All right, guys. Hi, and welcome to China. We're super excited about this lesson, and I think that you're going to like it too. We're going to learn a lot of cool stuff about some dynasties, and we've already learned a little bit about geography. So let's get going. So this is China, Ancient China, lesson 2. And we're going to talk about the dynastic cycle and what they do with their government. And it matters because a stable government builds solid growth and strength in the civilization. People are safe, your goods are safe, and your trade is doing well, and so you're able to grow as a civilization if you have a strong, stable government. All right, so let's move on to the next one. So the dynastic cycle. Let's move me out of the way. So we've talked a little bit about different forms of government and how people make decisions and who's in charge. And when we talk about the dynastic cycle, we're talking about how dynasties change. You can see the word dynasty in the word dynastic cycle. And the Chinese had this idea that developed into the Shang dynasty that the mandate of heaven refers to the will or the desires of the gods. So if the gods are going to tell us who's going to be in charge, that is a little bit like the pharaohs. And we'll see there's some commonalities, some things that the Egyptian pharaohs have in common with Chinese emperors. So let's get started with this cycle. There we go. So a strong leader establishes peace. It takes a strong leader to come in and stop those wars and establish some peace. And when you win the war and then you bring peace, then then the Chinese people would say, the mandate of heaven has fallen on this man, on this leader. And now everything is peaceful because this is who the gods want to be in charge. Here we are. And with that peace and that prosperity, the dynasty begins to grow because the gods favor this man and he's making good choices, and the dynasty is growing. So it begins to grow, but things can't stay good forever. When something bad then happens, then the Chinese people would say, oh, he's beginning to lose the mandate of heaven. The gods no longer desire that he be in charge. He's making some mistakes and there's some problems. And those mistakes could be things from anything from disasters, natural disasters like earthquakes and famines, floods. We also talked about the Wanghe River and how often it would flood and how violent those floods could be. And so that would be a problem. And then that might lead to a revolt. So now the emperor has a choice. He can either get things under control with strong leadership, or things are going to start to fall apart. If he does not get it together and figure out how to bring peace and order back, then the old dynasty is losing the mandate of heaven and may have lost the mandate of heaven. And that definitely means that the mandate of heaven has moved to somebody else. It's now their turn to rule. So now you've lost that. It's cool. We can all rebel against this guy, the new emperor that's been there. He's been there quite a while now. He's not new anymore, the same emperor. The dynasty is lost through rebellion, and a new dynasty emerges. Somebody else comes on top, and when he ends that war, he then brings a new dynasty with him. He regains all that power. He restores order. Now, he has the mandate of heaven. So now this new emperor is in charge, and it's called a cycle because it will start all over again. The cycle could happen quickly, or it could take hundreds of years, even up to 800 years that you're going to learn about in just a minute. Some dynasties last as long as 800 years. Mystica will tell you about that in just a second. So with the Chinese, then, we want to remember that the mandate of heaven refers to the will or desires of the gods. And this dynastic cycle, this circle that we have right here, happens over and over as people come into power. All right, so now we will do time for Mr. Kennedy. Oh, there goes the remember. Okay, your turn.
And Kennedy in again. So, hey guys, we've got your hot question here. Now, Miss Hodges just did a phenomenal job of just explaining the dynastic cycle. So, look at our hot question here. Explain how the ancient Chinese idea of the mandate of heaven is related to the dynastic cycle. So, remember, the mandate of heaven refers to the will or desire of the gods. PowerPoint's fast forwarding. So, how the will or desire of the gods relates to the dynastic cycle in 3 to 5 sentences with your vocabulary. I think Mandate of Heaven should probably be in there with restating, right, Miss Tickle?
Yeah.
And Kennedy out.
Okay, we are going to talk about the important Chinese dynasties. So, years active. This is 1766 BC to 1045 BC. And we have the Shang dynasty. During the Shang dynasty, the kings, warlords, and aristocrats were in power. And the accomplishments of the Shang dynasty are that it is the first dynasty. If you guys would please put a star by the first dynasty. This is the dynasty that also used oracle bones. Remember, this is where they would throw the tortoise shells into the fire to seek that advice from the gods. Then they used pictographs and ideographs, and they began using bronze. From 1045 BC to 221 BC, we have the Zhou dynasty. And the important leader in the Zhou dynasty is Wu Wang. The accomplishments are that they established a bureaucracy. They have the Mandate of Heaven. I mean, so important. You guys just heard Miss Hodges' explanation on that. So this is really important. The Zhou dynasty held on to the Mandate of Heaven for 800 years, which makes it the longest dynasty. So the guys were really looking at the Zhou dynasty with good favor, so they held on to it for 800 years. Then we have 221 BCE to 206 BCE, and you have the Qin dynasty. And this is where we see Qin Shi Huangdi, and he is known for having swift, harsh punishments. He established a currency, and this is where we see the building of the Great Wall beginning. And for 206 BCE to 581 CE, we have the Han Dynasty, and this is where we have Han Wudi. This is where civil service was established, and the empire was expanding, and the Silk Road formed, which is a network of trade routes. So here's what I'm going to tell you guys. This is all what section of grapes? Political. Okay, we've got achievements in here, all of these dynasties, all of the leaders, and the accomplishments need to go. You should try to match up your accomplishments with the dynasty, because Shang dynasty being the first dynasty is very important. The Mandate of Heaven going to Zhou dynasty is important. Shi Huangdi having the swift, harsh punishments and the building of the Great Wall. And then you have the Han Dynasty establishing civil service and the Silk Road. Okay, guys, that is it for me. Mr. Kennedy is going to come back in and do your next hot question. Yes, we have 2 hot questions. It's okay. You'll survive. Okay, bye.
And Mr. Kennedy's back again. So, just as Ms. Tickle explained the important Chinese dynasties and their achievements, we're going to go to our another hot question. Another one from DJ Khaled. I know that guy. So, here's your second hot question. Out of all the accomplishments listed in the table back in your video notes, which do you think has the strongest impact on your life and why? And Ms. Tickle explained that we need to match up these accomplishments with the dynasty. So let's try to do that in our answer. So if you think things like the Great Wall or that currency has an impact on your life, let's try and match that up to the dynasty. So let's answer this one, 3 to 5 sentences, and please give your reason on why. So don't just list, because we use currency, but how does it have an impact on your life? Why? Go back to your vocabulary, match the achievement or accomplishment up with the dynasty. DJ Khaled, that's my guy right there. So have a great one, and we'll talk about the Silk Road in your next lesson, guys. So have a good one.